Welcome to week 10, chapter 8 in our textbook material. This week is all about identifying criteria that we would use to measure or assess target market attractiveness and subsequent strategy that we would use to maybe enter a market or decide which market segments that we would jump into. So this preview or review, I guess. I'm sorry it wasn't sooner. I wanted to get it done first thing this week, and I wasn't able to get the video portion up to you last week, Thursday or Friday. But all the material is there. The readings are there. The specific reflection, the discussion forum reflection this week is on Campbell's soup, which is kind of an interesting case. There's a couple short articles that talk about how Campbell's soup worked to enter into two new market segments, their geographic regions, Russia and China, and problematically they really didn't understand at the time those market segments. They didn't understand how people in those areas and in those cultures viewed soup and the preparation of soup, and how the Campbell's soup concept of having a can of soup that is concentrated, that you open up the can, you put it in a pot, and then either heat it up or add water to it. That type of style of cooking is really not something that is done in those two markets. And so this is very much a story about not understanding the market segment, but looking at the market segment and seeing that it is extremely um, uh, attractive because of the market size, and the traditional soup eating practices both in Russia and China are huge. So, I mean, it makes sense. There's a lot of attractiveness to those markets, but at the time when these articles were written, Campbell's really didn't have the capability or understanding or really the fit to bring their product to market, and subsequently had a tremendous amount of difficulty. So this is an interesting read. A good reflection. It really kind of, I think, this whole week, while the material's not in depth and deep, it's not real deep. There's not a huge volume of new material in chapter 8. The idea of choosing and selecting markets that you're going to enter is really vital. It's really kind of an important thing, and it reflects who you are, your resources, your skill sets, but then also who you're going to compete against directly, like with competition, and then also matching and serving a market space. So there's really three big things going on here that I think are really important to consider. And so that's kind of the basis of that discussion. There are a couple other good examples of understanding market segments and bringing products to those. Walmart, there's a short example article of Walmart looking to establish themselves with banking services in Canada, and then another article that was launched when Coke launched its Coke Zero brand as an alternative for Diet Coke or diet soda drinkers. Again, that's a market segment that's really attractive, market diet soda drinkers, and this is another product they use to do that market, if you will. Also, the Walmart one again is kind of interesting. If you remember the brand, the retailer Sears and Roebuck, maybe. Sears was around for well over 100 years, started as a catalog order company back in the 1800s, and grew into physical retail store outlets, and then eventually became, in terms of its valuation and its base, they started a couple businesses. They bought a couple producers. They owned Die Hard. They owned Craftsman. They owned a couple different. They owned either Maytag or one of the um, household like washers and dryers and one of those companies. But they also had a credit card and they made an enormous amount of money off of their credit business, which is like a banking business. And in fact, when they finally went bankrupt and kind of settled everything, their biggest assets that they ended up spinning off and selling were their credit department, which was in a huge part of their business money wise, bigger than their actual, probably bigger than their actual retail endeavors. And then the other thing that they had in there as far as assets, they owned a lot of property because they had a lot of buildings and they owned a lot of property. So real estate was a big thing for them eventually. But this is like, thinking about Walmart. Walmart reaches an enormous number of people, and all these people use to some degree banking services, whether it's a debit card, kind of an account balance type thing, checking accounts, money transfers, all kinds of banking transactions happen, obviously. And so they're well positioned to reach lots of people for those banking services. So this is something to think about that Walmart, as kind of started doing, and think of their overall business portfolio. But this is a very different type of market, right? People come to the store for products to buy in a retail environment, but they could also incorporate banking aspects with that as well. So again, interesting material for that. I think it's worth just thinking about, if nothing else. Also, again, the chapter has a lot of material, including how to assess a market. And there's a really good one-off chapter by Lehman and Weiner. This category attractiveness chapter is a good one to read as backup, if you will. And then there are also market entry strategies. Like if we choose to enter the market and try to serve everyone, it's a mass market approach. And then there are other approaches where we look at targeting only specific market segments or maybe niches, something like that. Those all are strategy that companies will choose to use based on how they assess the market segments and which ones are most appealing to them and which ones make the most sense for them to try to reach. Okay, so that's a summary of this week. Again, a lot of interesting material. It's not like hugely deep in concept or theory so much, but very applicable, I think. Very helpful in terms of if you're a marketing manager, if you're a brand manager, thinking about the customer base and how that's defined. Again, this continues that storyline that we have had all semester. And I think you'll find it interesting. So let me know if you have any questions. I sure hope you're doing great this week. And take care.